Kristen, welcome to the Scaling Podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Aaron, thank you so much for having me. We were just talking about how it's crazy our paths have not crossed in person yet.
Yeah.
But seeing you over the screen, I can't wait to meet you in person.
I get that a lot. It's like I'll go to conferences and people will come up and be like, Aaron, you look great. And I'm like, I've never met them before. I'm like, they're just like, the power of LinkedIn and
I
social
was just gonna
media
say
is
it's because
really.
you're so good on LinkedIn. Everyone
Thank
knows
you.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, for the audience that doesn't know you, and I'd love to just kind of learn more about you. I've done a lot of research. Let's go back to kind of your where are you from, and then how did you get into franchising, and we'll start kind of there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I live kind of by Minneapolis, St. Paul, but on the Wisconsin side.
I
So,
heard I heard bag. I heard bag, like how you said bag. I knew it was somewhere out there because I
yes,
heard how you say bag.
yes, I will try to keep my northern accent in control, but I can't make any promises because sometimes
It's
when I
okay.
it's either I have a drink or I get passionate, and all of a sudden the Wisconsin comes out real fast. But I live in Wisconsin, just about 25 minutes from Minneapolis, St. Paul, though, on a cattle farm. So
Cool.
that's fun. And I got into franchising kind of probably like how everybody gets into franchising. All of a sudden they're just in it and it was not planned
Hmm.
and then you stay in it because it's great and I can't imagine leaving it. And my journey started actually when I was in college. I started a media company back when the Facebook was around and you still needed a
Hmm.
college email address to get on it and ended up taking on a lot of clients and setting up their initial social media presence from the transition of MySpace into the Facebook. And one of my clients was the Minnesota Vikings. And, you know, I did work for them for about 4 years on a contracted basis. And they wanted to build a social media and digital content team in house. And that meant that they were no longer going to pay me to do their work. And so I quickly raised my hand and jumped on that opportunity. Little did I know at the time, the Vikings is a franchisee of the franchisor, the NFL, and I had a really great time there, building out their content strategies, social media, doing a whole lot of crisis communications, and then ended up moving on to self-esteem brands. And at that time, it was just Anytime Fitness. There was about 1,200 locations and spent a good part of my career with self-esteem brands as they grew to 5,000 locations in 41 countries. Bought
Wow.
a bunch of smaller emerging brands, and I led a shared service team focusing on marketing and franchise development. And then 5 years ago, I came over to Massage Lux and started as chief growth officer, overseeing marketing and development, and then took on operations and started taking on bit by bit pieces of the business. And 2 years ago, took over as CEO. So, it feels like just yesterday. It also feels like a million years ago, and just thankful for the franchise journey.
Congratulations. That's an amazing rise. So yeah, and you and I share something in common. I was in franchise development. That's how I got started in franchising,
Mm-hmm.
and then um, became a franchisor and became a CEO, and recently stepped into a chairman role. But kind of went the okay. I know how to award franchise territories. Now we got to help them be successful. And then I was like, oh wait, now I can like build a franchisor. And then I'm like, oh wait, now I'm doing operations. Oh wait, now I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
And but yeah, no, so when you were at Minnesota Vikings, what were some things that you did that helped you prepare for the franchise world?
Yeah, I often attribute certain things that I'm good at to each role that I've held. And when I think back on my Vikings days, it's definitely, like I mentioned, the crisis management piece. It's really hard to shake me. You're not going to surprise me unless you call me at 2 a.m. and tell me that a player got shot at a nightclub, right? Like, I mean, it's just, there's not a whole lot of crisis outside of what I dealt with at the NFL that will shake me. And super fast moving and reactionary role for me there. One in which that was the primary reason that I wanted to get away from sports, is I just felt like I am a strategy junkie and I love a good plan and I love a good goal. But if my team can't win on the field, everything is shifted the
Yeah.
next Monday. And, I felt like I really needed to stick to a plan and see if I was actually good at this thing or if it was just a result of whether my team was good or not. And let me tell you, I'm a Packers fan. And so I got tired of rooting for the wrong team, even though they were paying me. Do you follow football?
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay. Well, then you can be a Packers fan. Come on over.
I'll just, yeah, you can I'll wear that badge for this time that we're together.
I love it. If you know anything about Lambeau Field, it's welcoming anybody with open arms. So we would love to have you. And it's funny that you started in franchise development, because one of the things that I'm super passionate about is explaining and encouraging franchise development folks to jump into that next role in either a president or a CEO role, because to your point, franchise development folks, they know everything about the business, right? They've got their hands in a little bit of all of the things, and they're good at relationships generally if they're good at their jobs. And being a CEO, as you well know, is a lot about relationships and a lot about having your hands in a little bit of everything, which franchise development folks are primed for.
Yeah. I mean, what I just got tired of is I would tell the franchisees they were going to get a certain amount of support or whatever, and then I had absolutely zero control over the amount of support that they would get. And the first brand I was with, like, we were on the tail end of a private equity turn, and so the need to sell franchises was less important than who we were selling them to. And so it was just like, deals, and get it done. And, we're going to keep lowering the qualifications to get people in just so we could get more people in. And so then we're going to cut costs around it. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is wild. But I wanted to be able to control and so really the only way to do that is to be the owner of the company, to be able to say, hey, if I'm going to say you're going to get X, Y, and Z thing, then you're going to go to training. Like, I'm going to make sure you're going to get X, Y, and Z thing and so for Suds, like, I awarded the first 160 units myself, in growing this brand. It's so important to understand franchise development. And what I found is, I don't know about your experience with this, but like, franchise development is often just like operating out on an island, and like no one on the ops side or the marketing side understands what franchise development does. It's like this like ethereal weird thing and they're just like, then they don't talk to each other, and it's so bad for the brand when that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm totally with you. When I was hired at Massage Luxe, one of the things that really prompted me to take the role was that it was a chief growth officer role, and not specific to franchise development, not specific to marketing, not specific to innovation. It was this all-encompassing role with the premise that happy franchisees sell more franchises.
Yep.
And too often, especially as franchises grow, those departments get siloed and no one knows what anybody else is doing, and as a result, that franchisee experience is segmented and often not good.
Yeah, you have the left hand not talking to the right hand, and then like the franchisee validation suffers because they're like, I thought it was gonna be like this, and then the operation seems like, no, it's actually gonna be like this, and then it's like, wait a minute, why aren't we all just getting aligned here? And setting the proper expectations. So that was really important for me in launching Rolling Suds, is to make sure, hey, like, we're all aligned. Ops is saying the same thing that sales is saying. Marketing is saying the same thing that ops and sales are saying, and everyone's rowing in the right direction. So, tell me some things about going from 1,200 units to 5,000 units. What were the acquisitions you made? How involved were you in adding those units, like from a Fran Dev perspective? Like, what was that experience like?
Yeah, fast moving, right? It was the fastest growing franchise out of any franchise other than Subway. So that's pretty remarkable. We didn't do it through acquisition. That's 5,000 Anytime Fitness locations,
Right. I
right?
meant the
So
emerging brands that you were
yes,
acquiring, but
yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So, right when I started at Anytime Fitness, it became Self Esteem Brands, and they acquired Waxing the City, which is their second
Okay.
largest brand. Right
Yep.
now, at about 150 units. When purchased, it was like under five. So it went through a lot of growing pains, honestly. There was such benefit to being there at that time because I was able to see, okay, this is what it looks like when it's really, really big, and here's how you get there. And you have to grow quickly and make sure that nobody's falling behind. And a lot of those owners throughout the process of starting Anytime Fitness were onesie, twosie owners. And
Hmm.
now there are a lot of PE backed owners and conglomerates. And, you support multi unit, multi brand franchisees different than you do the personal trainer who's always wanted to own the gym. And
Hmm.
so I would say learn by rapid fire in that moment. But then also balance growing franchises, right? Wax in the City was it was not a franchise, purchased and then immediately franchised. Base Camp Fitness, the Bar Method, very similar situations, just like very new brands. And I was leading a shared service department that serviced all the brands. And
From
so
a
now
marketing perspective.
yeah,
Got it.
for B2B and B2C. And so, it's interesting. Shared service models have a lot of benefit to them, but if you have one giant brand and then a bunch of smaller brands, it becomes a little bit of an internal war as to what brand gets the most support. One would argue that a
Yeah.
smaller brand who's starting a franchise needs the most support, while the bigger brand is funding a lot of that support. And so, a little bit of tug and war there that I think a lot of PE firms are starting to realize too, as these platform brands start to emerge more and more, is shared service model, tons of benefit, but also a lot that you have to pay attention to, more so than you probably would have thought on the onset of setting up those departments.
Yeah. I think I've heard this from different people that I'm close with at some of these different companies, and they're saying, I don't know your experience, but the shared service model, it's great in theory in terms of sharing different people. But to your point, if Anytime Fitness needs 30 marketing people
Hmm.
and Wax in the City needs, let's say, four because they need a lot of help and they only have 5 units, but we got to get to 100, so maybe they need 4 or 5 people. How do you staff up and staff down appropriately, and where do the resources go? Because I mean, the fundamental one of the fundamental challenges with franchising is franchisees need the most amount of support when they produce the least amount of royalties. So they need the most amount of help with marketing and the most amount of help with operations, all at the very beginning of their journey as a franchisee.
Yep.
So I don't know. Did you see that? Did you see that, like those challenges with shared service model at any time?
Every single hour of every single day. And I've thought a lot about this, right? We don't have a shared service model at Massage Lux because we're just one brand. But if we would, what are those things that I would want to do and put into place in order to make it an effective shared service model? And ideally, it would be that the brands are relatively the same size with the same amount of needs. Now, that's not always possible, but if choosing, that would be what I would choose. And if that's not possible, then really deciding what personnel are dedicated to the brand and which ones are shared service. So to your point, what marketers are just going to work on the brand and which ones are going to be more shared service. So perhaps that is the creative team, or people on the creative team, or people on the digital media side of the business or analytics side of the business. But keeping those brand marketers and those marketing leaders separate per brand.
So when you said that when you were at Anytime Fitness and Self Esteem Brands, when you said B2B and B2C, do you mean B2B to prospective franchisees? Is that what you're
Correct.
referring to?
Yep.
Okay. So
Right.
you were handling lead gen for prospective franchisees. Okay. So
Hmm.
then how many reps were on the team that were taking you guys from 1,200 to 5,000? How many like franchise development reps did you have?
I mean, it changed a ton, right? So when it started, like 4. And
Yeah.
when I left, a full team, I mean 10,
Yeah.
12
Yeah.
plus brokers, and so it ebbed and flowed based on how many people were coming in and then the types of buyers that were coming in. Near the end, it was we need the big fish that are going to buy 50 of these suckers, right? Or buy
Yep.
existing locations, which was a whole separate team. And so um, lots of different shifts in structure there. Not surprising given the amount of growth that they've had, right? Like it took a little bit of upsizing and downsizing and then, trying to figure it out. I left in 2020
Okay.
and then came over to Massage Lux.
So, how did you, as you changed from the 1 to 2 owner personal trainer that's always wanted to own a gym to the 50 unit operator, what kind of lead gen strategies were you doing that either didn't work, or how did you shift your strategy for getting leads for franchise development?
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, a lot of it was either referral based and then like lower lead gen funnel, right? Like Meta back then,
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram, Google search. And while that's certainly still a strategy today, even 5 years removed that I am, I'm certain it's a strategy. There are more activities around trade shows and print publications and thought leadership and broker networks and hunting. Honestly, like a lot of it for any time in the early days was just catching the fish that were being thrown at you because
Yeah.
it was the first 24-hour unstaffed gym, like super easy model. Come in, put your 4 walls up, never pay attention to the business again. You don't even have to staff it. Your members have a key. Then competition ensued. Boutique fitness became a thing. Planet Fitness came a thing. And what once was, a 5 to 8,000 square foot gym that could sustain 1,200 members and you never had to pay attention to it was now up against a 15,000 square foot gym where you had 10,000 members paying $10 a month, right? And you had to
Hmm.
differentiate, which required the brand to reposition into more of a coaching or personal training type model, which required a different type of owner, one in which couldn't just open the doors and watch the money pour in, but one in which
Right.
had to staff and
They
have
had to
a
manage and develop people.
exactly. So, I think while that all was happening, we were shifting who we were going after to run these businesses to people who are used to staffing and who have experience in QSR or other brands that are similar.
Got it. Okay, so you grew that. You helped grow that from 1,200 to 5,000. Um, and then what made you decide, hey, I want to go do something else?
Yeah, I don't know that I wasn't really looking. I'm always open to opportunity. I'm never not looking, but it wasn't like I was like I need to leave. In fact, I was probably the
Right.
opposite because I left in July of 2020, which is like
Yeah.
probably the worst time to take a jump in your career. But when approached by the Massage Lux opportunity, I went, holy crap, there's a lot that I can do here with this brand that is amazing, that has an amazing foundation, that has an amazing team with a tenure of 12 years, that's been around a long time but has had stagnant growth, not because people aren't interested, but because there was no pressure or investment or effort put forth in their growth because it was royalty sufficient and complacent and just fine, just chugging along.
Yeah.
And the business model is so similar to fitness because 75% of the revenue in our business is recurring from monthly paid memberships. It's in the health and wellness space, but the number one frustration for me in the fitness business was the attrition was just
The churn.
terrible. Yeah, you're refilling the leaky bucket that you've lost 80% that you put in the last year. Whereas in this business, because your credits roll over, you don't use a massage or a facial in a particular month. You just get another massage or a facial the following month. The attrition sits at like 2%. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, you can actually grow these suckers. And, the business model in itself was like, I can do this. This is exactly what I have been doing. Then the team, like I said, I mean, the team is amazing. I'm up in Minneapolis area. We're based in St. Louis, so I'm here every other week, but the full team is in the office every day. And they're a fantastic group of people. And I think that people do make the difference in franchising. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that I'm watching as PE starts to come in more and more in franchising, which I think is great. But the downside to that is there is a lot of churn in executives, but just in general in franchisor personnel, and that hurts the franchisees.
And is Massage Lux privately owned or is
We
it
are.
private? You are.
We are.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and is the founder still involved?
No.
No. Okay. Um, so you come in 2020, things are shut down. What's going on with the stores? How many stores are there? Are franchisees freaking out? Like, what's the state of the business when you come in?
Yeah, so just over 60 units. Franchisees are not freaking out because Massage Lux was not impacted to the extent of other businesses.
Okay.
Like I said, we're a reoccurring revenue model. While some of our spas did have to close for longer than a month, most of them closed for a couple of weeks. We're able to reopen under health and wellness. We put the protocols in place where you got a massage wearing a mask, and your
Yeah.
therapist was wearing a mask too. But for the franchisees that communicated well with their members, there really wasn't a whole lot of gap in revenue.
That's
Revenue
great.
overall dipped about 10% that year, which is nothing in comparison to some of the bleeding numbers that I've seen in other like businesses. So it really was okay. I mean, of course, you coming in, there were things, but my focus was more on like the fact that the website needed to be renovated
Mm-hmm.
significantly, the fact that we didn't have online booking, the fact that our brand needed a little fine tuning, that our franchisees needed to be listened to, they needed to have a space where they could come and explain the things they love about the brand, but also the things that needed to change about the brand. So developing an FAC, things like that are foundational, that just needed a little bit of refinement.
Okay. And did they have a franchise sales team at the time when you came in, or?
So the franchise sales guy started in November, so he had just started right prior to COVID.
Okay, so he
Yep.
started prior to COVID, and then were you leading him? Like, were you his boss?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So the way that my role sat was over franchise development and marketing.
got it.
And then eventually, like I said, then I started to take on operations still as chief growth officer. And I was really blessed because the previous CEO was heading into retirement, right? So this was kind of the plan was, Kristen, come in, lead the departments that you know, but then learn under me. He was an operational and is an operational guru. And so I got the pleasure of learning under him and testing the waters before I took over the role. So it was a really planful, and I was very lucky to have that experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
So,
awesome.
so what have been the some of the major differences going from chief growth officer helping the brand grow to chief executive officer?
Oh my gosh, I want to ask you the same question. Um,
I'm happy to answer it too. Yeah, we can go down a rabbit hole on this for probably a while.
we can, we can. You know, there's a lot. There's a lot that is different, and I ask myself every day. I'm like, how did I get here? Um, Being in franchise development and being in marketing has always been about relationships for me. I really think that relationships are foundational in franchising in particular, any role, but in franchising in particular, it's all about the franchisee. Being CEO allows me to see two very different sides of that franchisee. Either everything's on fire and you need to come in as a firefighter right now, or sometimes it's, oh my gosh, this is so great, let's celebrate. And it's like the
Mhm.
two polar opposites that fill my day. I'm either on a meeting where things are going so well and we're celebrating, or things are needing some remediation and we're
Mhm.
remediating.
Right.
And so it's like the highs and the lows, and there's no plateau. However, I need to be the plateau for the team.
Mhm.
And so I often feel like I'm flip flopping between crisis management, which I love, and celebration, which I also love. Outside of that, obviously, like a lot more legal than I would have anticipated, a lot more finance than I would have anticipated, and just kind of making sure that my team has exactly what they need. Whereas even when leading a team on franchise development and marketing, it wasn't it didn't take up as much time. I still had time to do my work. And now I'm like, man, how do I do everything that I want to do and also support everybody else?
Yeah.
What about
How
you?
much? How big's your team? I'll
We
answer
have
in a
just
second.
under 30.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So for me, like, I love franchise development. It's what made me fall in love with franchising, and I think it's largely because the franchisees are really happy at that point. Like, they're nervous,
Yeah.
but they're like really excited and really happy. Um, I think what I didn't anticipate is like I'm just not an operations, like operations drains my energy. Now, when you own a brand, like I'm the majority shareholder in the company, like you got to do whatever you got to do. Um, but like what I will say is like since I hired my CEO 5 months ago, like my life is remarkably better than it
Yeah.
was. Like, and it's just because I'm able to do things that I enjoy and that give me energy. Like having this conversation with you, like gives me energy. I enjoy talking about franchising. I enjoy promoting and marketing and sales and like content creation. And that's why you see me so much online because like I enjoy doing those things. And also like it drives the business forward in a really meaningful way, right? Like
Mhm.
we went and you'll love this as a marketing executive. We went from in 2023 7% of our franchise sales revenue coming from organic content. When I say organic content, it's like me posting stuff online. Like we don't pay any money for ads in franchise development currently. Like, and then in 2024, I was like, I think this could really be something. And so I started investing a lot more time and energy and money into it. We hired a director of content who helps produce this podcast and create the videos that you see online. Um, and we went to 42% of our revenue
Amazing.
coming from organic founder led brand content, like from me. So a massive jump. Like, and you know what that does to the P&L as a
Yeah.
yeah, it's like when you're
Yeah.
not paying as much. Like I have no problem paying brokers. Like I'll pay brokers all day long. Some of my favorite people in the franchise industry are brokers. But when you can balance out some of that with non brokers, like it makes it a lot better because you have more money to support franchise owners and do the things that you want to do. So, what's great is the thing that I like doing drives the business forward in a way that I can't do any other way. So what that means is that if the other things don't give me energy, then I
Mhm.
need to my time and attention is a resource, and I would argue a pretty valuable one. So I need to then bring in people who do get energy from doing those things, and I think as the CEO or as the president of the company, like the hardest stuff is always going to flow up to you. The
Mhm.
franchisee who is like, I need to sell because this isn't working, or, all of that kind of stuff. And so what I found is like when that stuff would bubble up, I then also wouldn't be able to do the thing that gives me energy for like 5 days because I'm like buckled down trying to solve an issue. And so it was like a double negative on resource allocation. Like I wasn't able to do the thing that gives me energy, and I'm also not doing like. And so I was like, this year I was like, this isn't a good use of capital, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, good for you for realizing that though, too. I mean, that takes some introspection and obviously, it's helps that you own the business and can kind of make that decision for sure. But I mean, you've got to be feeling it yourself as you stated, but your team's got to be feeling that too, right?
Yeah, like my team knew that like they could see that I was like being pulled in a million different directions and I'm being stretched thin, and they're like, so now they've got someone like Tom Gisler's in, and
Mhm.
he's been in franchising for 22 years. Um, Started as a franchisee, helped grow ServPro as on the franchisor side, then PuroClean, then
Yeah.
Restoration One as the president of that brand. So the dude's been doing this like longer than I've been, way longer than I've even been in franchising. And what's cool is he's come in and he's like, Aaron, I'm even more confident about the where this thing can go now than I was when I signed up to do it. Because he's gone out and he's talked to all the franchisees and he's realized how much kind of potential there is. And yeah, and the franchisees, like he's like they trust him. He was a franchisee. He built a $22 million ServPro business. So like, franchisees want to know, what it's like to build a business. And I think franchisees generally think that building a franchisee local business is different than building a franchisor business, which I think there's the same level of risk on both sides, but if maybe more on the franchisor side. But anyways, he speaks their language, and that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. 16% of franchise brands make it past 100 units. So a lot more than 16% of franchisees succeed. So I feel
Yeah, exactly. That's exact. Yeah, and like do you know David Barr? Have you met
Yeah.
David Barr? Yeah, yeah. So David's one of the first investors in Rolling Suds, and he's invested again. So he's like my main mentor,
Awesome.
and we talk probably once a week, and it's been very valuable. But he's like he gave a speech at Springboard, and he was like, once you get to 100 units, you become profitable, like more or less. I mean, you could become royalty self-sufficient sooner than that potentially, but then you're kind of like stagnant maybe, and you're not in growth mode. You really need to get to like 150 open units to make this deal like worth it. And so like if that's true, then it's like, oh yeah, if only 16% are getting there, then that's not a lot. That's not a lot that are super profitable.
No, I mean, I think those numbers are not getting better. They're getting worse. I think that, we've all seen it where you have a concept, you are excited about it, you sell it to your friends, and you don't build the infrastructure fast enough to help support it. You sell 90 units, you've got 5 open, and you don't have the team to support the 85 that need to open still. And so, I mean, they fall flat.
Yeah. So being a founder, still owned brand, like did your founder raise capital to start, or did she bootstrap, or he bootstrap? How do you guys?
We're actually
How are you?
not founder led or founder owned.
Oh, okay. Was
Mhm.
it bought by someone?
Yeah, correct. Yep. So we're
Okay, cool.
privately owned, but founder is no longer involved, hasn't been in many, many, many years.
Okay.
And so we haven't had to raise any capital, luckily. Our owner, certainly would put money in, but we've been royalty self-sufficient as well as able to cover our expenses for a while. I think part of that is because we were founded in 2007, right? So,
Yeah, it's been around a while.
there's longevity in the spas that have been open, and those legacy spas do very, very, very well. The interesting part about the brand is that, half of our growth happened many, many, many years ago, and half of our growth
Sure.
happened in the last 5 years. And so we've got this 50% of our franchise base who are brand new and who are ramping and who are opening their second and third, fourth locations. And then we've got 50% of our franchisees who've been doing this, over a decade and are either just kind of hanging out on their yacht or or transitioning out because they've gotten what they want from the business. It's been 15 years and they're looking to sell to somebody who wants to come in and take it over, and they can slide into whatever they want to do next, which is probably be on a yacht. And so it's cool because we've got this new generation of folks coming in, both buying existing as well as opening new locations. There's this kind of renewed energy within the system with all the growth, and it's pretty awesome. We opened our 100th location in July.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So a couple more to open this year, and then we've got a pretty big year planned next year. So it's been fun.
That's awesome. So what's that like having two different cultures in kind of
Yeah, at
how's
first,
it what's that like?
very difficult at first. Very, very, very difficult at first. Now, amazing. But franchisee relationships take time. They want
Hmm.
to be listened to, they want to be heard. You know all of this, you've got them. And for a while, they weren't. They weren't listened to and they weren't heard and they didn't feel like they had a say in the company direction. And it just felt like they were kind of on an island and alone. And so, a big part of being able to double this brand size is making sure that the franchisees that are already a part of this system are feeling that excitement and that growth. And that looks like, forming an FAC, having annual conferences, which, this brand had never had, and developing, LMSs and communication platforms and new branding and all of the things that franchisees get excited about. And so, like I said, a lot of the foundation was in place. It just needed to be tweaked just a tiny bit for this brand to really grow. So it's cool to see it all happen now.
Yeah. So what are some things kind of that you specifically did or that you are currently doing outside of creating the FAC conventions? I heard you say that, but like what other things tactically do you do on a weekly basis to try to help maybe mold those two cultures or kind of tamper one of them and enhance another one of them? Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that as you get to know me, which I know we're not friends yet, but we will be, I pride myself on being super authentic. And what I think that that does is create psychological safety, both for my employees and for my franchisees. And I think that sometimes a franchisee just needs a good solid 30 minutes to talk about their divorce or their kid or their life or their parents or whatever that is, in order to build that relationship and that trust, so that then you can do business together. And one of the things that I think sets me apart as a CEO is that I'm willing to have those conversations over looking at a balance sheet any day. And so I'm texting my owners about their weekends, and they're friends with me on Facebook. And of course, I've got 100 locations. Like, that's not scalable forever.
Hmm.
But right now, as we're trying to mold these two cultures together, it's what needs to be done to make sure that they understand that, listen, I'm human. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to be perfect. But we are going to strive towards perfection. And we can disagree on topic A, B, and C, but if we agree on the rest, like, that's okay. And so I've really been making a conscious effort to, when asked something that we disagree with, provide the other point of view as much as I can and other franchisees' point of views, and just lead with as much integrity as I can. As the brand grows, that goes away a little bit,
Yeah.
and or just becomes a little bit more scalable or broad reaching, in where I try to illustrate in my webinars, or team calls or roundtables or even at conference, like, hey, we were kind of at a loss here. We were thinking A, then we were thinking B. We asked 20 franchisees what they thought, and 10 wanted this, 10 wanted this, and then we did a tiebreaker, and this is why we went with this, right? And I think if
Right.
franchisees can see, like, they're not just making decisions in a silo, they're not just, throwing down the hammer, then they're more quick to forgive or to understand.
Yeah. We, I mean, we experienced that. So when we launched, it was in 2023. I acquired a single location power washing business from Pennsylvania that had not franchised. I built the franchise system, and in the first 9 months, we awarded 90 units to 30 franchise owners. And now we have 92 franchise owners and 328 units. And it was, the first franchisees that signed up, I was doing the fran dev myself, right? Like the first, whatever, 40 franchise, 45, 50 franchisees. And so they kind of like it was like me and them, like in their mind, and like that's not scalable long term. Like the franchise gets past 50 units, the founder or the owner can't have regular conversations with everyone. No one would get there'd be no way to grow the brand. But that created some, I think some I don't know if dissonance is the right word, but like almost like, hey, we were supposed to be talking and now we're not talking as much kind of thing. And so I'd still call like the first 10 and check in here and there, but really like you have to do what's best for the brand. And so I was just curious kind of how you navigate that. So how many franchisees do you have now? I know you have 100 locations open, but how many Z's?
Yeah, about 45.
45 Z's. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're like right in that
Right
point
there.
where like you can still give a lot of attention and try to make sure that they know and understand that you're there. But you get to 60, 75, 95, 110, and like there's got to be layers put in between. So anyways, when that happens, feel free to call me at any point in time. I'm happy to
I will
help.
take
Like,
you up on that, and I'm actually there
yeah,
because I mean that's open. I've got
yeah,
franchisees who are in the process of opening, many of them, and I'm well over the 60 mark when we account for those
yeah,
folks. And yeah, I'd love your perspective on that. I've got a great team, and they've worked for me for 5 years. Like, hopefully, I have taught them a little bit about what I expect as it relates to franchisee relationships, and really viewing this more as a marriage. Honestly, like, we're gonna both give a little, we're both gonna take a little, and we're gonna disagree about the laundry in the corner, but we're gonna agree about the morals and the way we want to raise
yeah,
our business, right?
yep, yep.
Yeah, and so I hope that whether I'm here or somewhere else, 10 years from now, follows them in their career.
One thing you can do, you said you give webinars, or do you record videos that you give out to the network?
Yep.
One thing you could do, just super tactically, is the person that is going to be the layer in between you and as you kind of maybe step into more larger strategy, whatever role, is it's simple, but bring that person on your webinars
Yeah.
and have them stand next to you so that the message is being delivered by you and them, and just do that. Like,
Yeah.
do it regularly, and then eventually like that person starts to kind of chime in and say, hey, I think that we're also gonna do this, and like it kind of helps that, because to your point about relationships and trust, like franchising is all about trust and relationships, and they are going to have that relationship and trust with you. And inevitably, when you can't talk to them regularly, they'll feel like that trust has been broken, regardless of whether it's necessary for the business or not.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Absolutely something that we should be doing a little bit more of. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. So for your kind of, I read a lot about like your leadership style online and kind of some things you do to help grow your team. I'd love for you to kind of explain that to listeners, your strategies around leadership and leading both franchisees and your team of 30. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the first thing is definitely around this being super authentic. Like, my team will see me, being silly and enjoying life, but then also switching with the drop of a hat to a more serious topic. And, the premise behind that is that you spend half of your waking hours at work. And, like, for me, I spend half of my life in St. Louis, like away from my two daughters who are 11 and 7, away from my family, living in a hotel. Like, I am going to have fun at work because
That's where the headquarters are, is in St. Louis.
St. Louis, yeah,
And you spend how much time there per month?
half the time. Every
Oh,
other week.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so for me, and this is true even prior to
Yeah.
working this way, my work, makes me a better person. I fully believe that. It makes me a better sister, a better daughter, a better mom, a better wife, all of those things, because I enjoy what I do and it fills my cup. I want that to continue to happen. And so I want my team to see that they too can enjoy work and can be themselves. And, can bring themselves. I think early on in my career, early on in my career, especially at the NFL, it was like male dominated, like pretty suit buttoned up. And like, I never told anyone my age. I never showed my personality. I was very like, yes, I'm corporate Kristen, and here's my blazer and my blah, 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 blah. And now I will never, ever, make a fool of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, now I'm like, man, if I can make a fool of myself in front of my team so that they can see that I'm actually human and that they have the availability to try something or to be themselves or to laugh at themselves while still, of course, keeping the business at the center, like I'm going to do that all day long because I know that that's exactly the way that I would want to be led. So I think that's number one. I think number two is admitting, and this kind of goes along with that psychological safety, which I think is key to keeping happy people. You don't have to have all the answers. And I used to say, like, fake it till you make it, right? Like, nobody actually knows how to do the things. It's just like taking the best guess with the data, the info, the mentorship, the experience that you have, and forming the best decision you possibly can. The only people who actually know how to do their jobs right are accountants, and that's because it's like required that you do it a certain way. everything else, everything else is like, maybe it's right. I think it's right. I don't know.
We're figuring it out, yeah.
We're figuring it out. And somebody once told me, they're like, don't say fake it till you make it, say face it until you make it. And I think that I've made that kind of like one of the founding blocks of like how I operate, which is I'm just going to get it done. And I'm going to get it done the best that I know how, again, with the resources that I have at my disposal. But no one's going to say she stalled out on that. She didn't do it. She, didn't give it her best shot. And so, again, as I lead the team, I think it's really important that they know that, you have to try, and I'll be there to help refine your try. I'm not going to do it for you, but, I'll be there to guide you. And then once you get it done, we'll figure out if something needs to change. And if it does, that's okay. We can change it. We're not curing cancer here. We're not in a scientific lab, measuring out millimeters. We are trying to run a business which is much more perception based.
Yeah. And you said you have an 11 and a 9-year-old? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, 2 girls.
11 and a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
So how do you manage being away from them? Like, what's that like? And is there support? I mean, I don't know if you're married.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that all work logistically? Because we have 3 kids, and I barely know how that works logistically, and I have to travel a lot for work. So I'm curious as your experience.
Yeah, obviously I get this question a lot, and I've thought a lot about this. It's kind of like when you sign the dotted line on your franchise agreement, and you look at it in macro view, and you go, how the hell am I going to run this business? I've never ran a business. I have no idea what to do. I don't know that like, when you look at it in macro view, you're like, what the hell? How do they do that? When you look at it day by day, you just do it, right? My husband's a teacher, and he is fantastic, and the girls are getting older, and we have a ton of family support. So my family jumps in, my friends jump in. Our calendars are crazy, but honestly, I operate the best on the edge of chaos. And I was in DC this weekend talking to a bunch of high school students as part of a board that I'm on about college prep, career planning, and soft skills. And one of the things that I talked to them about is that anybody that they look up to in their lives, right? Most of them in high school being athletes, right? So you're looking up to a pro athlete. They're operating on the edge of chaos. They have a routine that is so perfectly orchestrated, and they are constantly pushing themselves. And one of the students said, oh my gosh, it's kind of like, like when you go to the gym, you always want to level up, or when you're running a race, you always want to run faster than you have. And it's like, yes, exactly. Like, I will always add things to my plate, even though everybody on the outside says, why is she doing that? She's crazy. And it's because if I don't, I'll never get better. And that's the way that I view my personal life too, is like, I want my girls to say, yeah, my mom like did it all, right? She pushed herself, and because of that, she's not only, getting to raise us, but she's getting to live out her dreams as well.
That's awesome. What do they like to do for fun?
Yeah, Addie, my oldest, is a dancer, so she does competitive dance, and then
Nice.
Aubrey.
Ballet?
All the things. Yeah. So right now she's
All of
in
them.
yeah, contemporary music theater and jazz. And then Aubrey is in soccer. What about your kids? How old are they?
Nice. 4,
Ooh.
3,
Oh.
and 5 months.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in the thick of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
I read this thing. I don't know. It was maybe last night, the night before. It was like, shout out to all the founders who also have young kids. You're quietly scaling 2 large businesses at once, or something along those lines. And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, we my daughter was born November 16th, so we celebrated her 3-year birthday yesterday. We had a party for her, and but she was born November 16th, 2022. I acquired the brand like January 9th of 2023, so like
Wow.
7 weeks later or whatever. Um, so it was a lot. I mean, the launching a company takes absolutely everything that all of the focus that you possibly have. Being the CEO of a company takes all of the focus that you have, and you absolutely have to make it your everything to get there. But I definitely missed a lot of the first year of her life. Now, luckily, she won't remember because she's she was 1. But even when I was home, because I'm going to different broker events, and you know how much
Oh
we have to
yeah.
travel for the franchise industry, and even when I am home, I'm not present there because I'm thinking about all the things that need to get fixed. I mean, I was doing the Fran Dev from 8 in the morning till 6 at night. I was waking up at 5. I was running the business till 7:30, 7:45 a.m. I put the kids to bed from 6:30 to 8 or whatever, and then I give them fed, and then I'd be back in front of the computer from 8 to 11:30. And for about 14 months, we were hiring a new person every 13, 14 days, and
Yeah.
terminating team members and replacing them, and whatever we had to do to get to where we are now. And um, so I made the decision this year to step back. We had my son, who is his name's Emmett. So we have Emmett, who's the youngest, Margaret, who's the 3-year-old, and then Murray, who is the oldest. And I was just like, you know what? A lot of people in my position would be like, all right, cool. Like, we've got 300 units. Now we need another brand, or we need to do this, or we need to do that. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm just not going to. I'm going to focus on continuing to give the resources necessary to my CEO to be successful. But with the additional resources that I have, attention, time, whatever, it's going to go towards these other elements of my life that kind of had to take a back seat when I first launched Rolling Suds. And so spending more time with my wife, and she stays at home with the kids. We have a full-time nanny as well now. But in response to your question about like what do they do, my daughter loves Peppa Pig.
Oh,
So her
naturally.
party yesterday was Peppa Pig themed.
Oh.
I was wearing a Daddy Pig shirt. My wife was wearing a Mummy Pig shirt. My son was wearing George, and then my other son, my youngest, was wearing Baby Evie shirt. So she was thrilled. They both do gymnastics, but it's my gym, so it's like the same as like the little gym or whatever.
Yeah.
So I take them there on Saturday mornings, and that's like my thing, one of my things that I do with them. And they both love to like color and draw and do art and crafts and stuff like that, and they play really nicely together. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge blessing. Like, there's nothing better.
Hmm. Yeah, I love this. I hope that one day I can take a pause and do that. And early on, when they were your kids' age, I did work in Minneapolis, so I was home a lot more, which was great. And now, I think I'm like kind of entering the years where they don't even want me anymore. Like Mom, leave me alone. I'm going to my room.
That's what
So
I'm hearing. Yeah.
this is coinciding perfectly with my career plan. But you have to make the best decision for your family and what they need, and also yourself too. So I love it. I think that's a great idea. You got your hands full, let me tell you.
It
3,
is
you're
a
going back
lot.
to zone coverage. You're not even man to man anymore. You're like going back to it. Ooh.
It is wild. Yeah, and then we have a full-time nanny as I mentioned, and it's still hard. Like it's
Yeah.
not like it's like we have, in the mornings it's just like it's constant. I mean, and they're flopping their body around, laughing hysterically. You're trying to get a shoe on them. They kick the other one off. It's like, "Oh gosh, this is
I
crazy."
feel ya. I know it.
um so what I think you when did you start getting more involved in the franchise industry, and was there kind of like thought process behind that, decisions, like because you've been kind
Yeah.
of involved in the franchise industry. So when did that happen and what kind of predated that?
Yeah. It definitely happened at Self Esteem Brands. I'm trying to think of the year that it happened, though. I want to say it was 2016 or 17. And I believe the first time that I went to the IFA, Chuck and Dave, the founders of Anytime Fitness, were the keynotes. They wore kilts on stage, which was fun. And I went to kind of experience it, cover it from a marketing perspective for them, and immediately fell in love with the community. I knew I loved franchising. I had worked in it for a couple of years, but then I met a lot of amazing people in franchising, and I went, these are my people. Like I'm in on this,
Hmm.
and since then I've just kind of grown in my scope and have met some of my best friends and mentors in franchising. I think that as a marketer, a lot of marketers will go to an Adobe conference or a Google
Hmm.
summit, and they'll learn all the things that are up and coming on marketing and the newest innovations. And for me, while of course I keep a pulse on that and I want that, I also believe that there's so much value in connecting with the people who are in the same business model as you. I also recognize that franchising is probably never going to be on the leading edge of marketing because we have franchisees that we need to get on the ship as well.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, since then, of course, I got my CFE, which was a great experience, and serve on the Marketing Innovation Committee for the IFA. I've served on the Convention Committee for the IFA, and am involved in the advocacy and just, really trying to spread the word of franchising, of course, to franchisees, but also to people who are looking to get into something from a career perspective. I think that our jobs provide us this unique ability to be both consultants or teachers, but also have the responsibility of a corporate, P&L or bottom line. And so, for those folks that are looking, to agency or partner sides of the business, franchising lends itself really nice to that.
Yeah. Why do you think more people don't know about franchising?
Uh, you know, it's I think that it's the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and the big brands that have put in the regular consumer's mind that these are giant corporations and not franchises. And early on, maybe franchising was probably even more popular than it is now. Like you look at the 1960s when franchisees, were owning onesie twosies and they were just starting out, and it was kind of this franchise boom. Then all of a sudden, all these major franchise brands started to be owned by a few groups, and so it kind of got that like corporate designation to it. And I do think that it's rebounding, and that like the campaigns that the IFA are running around really spotlighting franchisee owners and trying to pull out the small business aspect of franchising hopefully will help to shift consumer perception.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I don't know. Again, I think that it has to do with like the Subways and the big, KFCs and Dairy Queens, where you don't view them as small businesses even though they are.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at Main Street Summit a couple weeks ago with Matt Haller, and we had dinner, and he said that like they're doing this whole push in government that franchisees are franchising is local
Yep,
essentially, and
that's
going
it.
to,
Yep.
which I think is a great way to kind of really summarize it. Because if you go to a like if you go to like I've been on Capitol Hill, you go talk to these lawmakers and they don't even know how to spell franchise. Like you're
I
trying to
know.
explain it. It's like they're regulating stuff that they don't even understand.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's wild.
It is. And, we are trying to get the American Franchise Act passed right now, which really does codify joint employer in the way that the government sees it. But to your point, I mean, when I was in DC in September, we would walk into offices and try to explain this, and it was like 10,000 feet
Yeah.
above them. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, you. You represent an area within a state. You don't even know what franchising is. This is a problem. So franchising is local. I think is a great campaign. I think the IFA is doing a great job of trying to get this act passed, but then also trying to educate. So I'm excited to see, the commercials that I've seen so far, the content that I've seen so far, super, super strong. I hope they continue to push with it.
Yeah, I'm going to push too on the content side.
Yeah.
I do a lot of stuff on Twitter as well. Twitter, like I feel like LinkedIn is largely a lot of franchise people. Like that's where just like franchising kind of lives. I've joked before, but like LinkedIn today in the franchise industry is kind of like Facebook in 2013. Like everyone put like pictures of their like family, like or whatever. Like it was just very like I'm checking in, at this place. Like I'm feeling happy, and I love it. I think it's great.
Like, do you ever go back on your Facebook memories and you're like, wow, what
Yeah.
was I thinking 15 years ago when I was like, is really anxious? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What was happening on that day?
Yeah, you were putting like things that should definitely be private one-on-one text messages like out for everyone to see.
Oh, totally. Yep, I'm
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, I know. One of these days I should go back the 15 years and delete everything, but I like it. I like seeing the memories too much. I'm like,
It's
ooh, I
fun.
wonder what was happening back then.
It's fun. But Twitter, we actually have sourced a lot of our franchisees from Twitter.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so Twitter, like at least the community that I'm a part of, or at least the corner of Twitter, is like this SMB, which is small and medium sized business, ETA, which is entrepreneurship through acquisition. So like you're looking at buying a business instead of starting one from scratch. And like this kind of space where there's people that are like actively trying to buy businesses, and franchising is kind of like this kind of subset of that community. And I'm going to guess, but there might be 5,000 people in that community, roughly. And then a ton of tertiary people that are considering getting in and deciding I want to buy a business because they see Cody Sanchez talking online about being able to buy, laundromat for whatever. And what they're finding is that a lot of those people can't find that business to buy. And so instead of spending another 18 months and raising more search fund capital and X, Y, and Z thing, they're now saying, well, what if I bought a franchise? Because I'm going to buy a franchise for the same reasons that you would buy an existing business, which is there's existing systems in place, you follow them, you can really build off of something. The only real major difference is that you have cash flow with one of them, and you're not going to have that with the franchise. But you're going to probably take on less risk because if you buy the cash flow, you're going to take on SBA debt, which is probably going to be pretty significant. And so one of the things that I do and why I put out a lot of content on Twitter is like, how do we let those people know as well that franchising is a business model that you own 100% of your business. Mm-hmm. And what I've found is that there's a lot of misconception, even in the larger entrepreneurial community, about what a franchise is or isn't. And without going into a ton of detail, like we have a lot of work to do as a franchise industry. Like we have a lot of work to do to overcome a lot of negative perceptions around the franchisees and franchisor relationships and things like that. But there's this huge buyer pool of people that would be great franchisees that if we are able to overcome some of these challenges that we face, we'll have a lot of great people coming into franchising. So anyway, that's something. And then Main Street, some of the reason I started talking about this is Matt, Main Street Summit is like the big conference in that space. There was like 12 or 1,300 people that went. They go to Columbia, Missouri. I was just there a couple weeks ago. Last year I spoke at that conference. We were the only franchise panel at the entire event. Uh-huh. And then this year there was an entire franchise track. So you
Really?
saw a lot of, yeah. So you saw Matt came out, he spoke. There were multi-unit franchisees out there with $50 million businesses. There was a whole track.
Cool.
And so it was really cool. So, kind of helping people understand that finding the right brand. Now you probably need to find one of those 16% of the brand. So you got to find the right brand, but can really help you achieve this outcome that you're searching for. Outside of needing to find this perfect HVAC business that's doing $1 million in profit that the owner is retiring on, and all you got to do is replace the fax machine, and it just doesn't exist. It's not a reality.
Right. Well, we need millions and millions and millions of dollars. Let's launch a big campaign together and get everybody to post content.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just on it.
Just make more content, everyone. Just
Yeah.
make more content. It's easy. It's fine.
Yep.
That's funny. That's really funny. And then, okay, so you're Massage Lux, you're CEO of Massage Lux. You have 120 sold roughly right now?
We have more than that sold, yeah. So we have 103 open. We should
103 open.
20-ish, 25-ish in 2026. We'll probably end the year here at 105 and then be around the 125, 130 mark at the end of 26.
And then you have how many sold?
Well, that's the tough part. Do you want the sold and going to open, or the expired mod agreements that are just kind of sitting there?
I want the sold and going to open, because those are the ones that
Going
matter.
to open above 30. So we're in a good spot. We've got
30 out yep. And then the development agreements that have expired, those are not counted.
Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows? Some of those are sitting out there, and I'm like, well, you never know. But yeah. We've got a good pipeline, so that's good.
And then, so the plan, I read somewhere that you had said to go to 250. Is that kind of where you want to take in your tenure as CEO?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? I think that we're well on our way to doing that. We've got a couple of really interesting prospects that are larger multi-unit franchisees as well that we could consider. So yeah, I mean, the goal is to grow to a point where we still feel really, really solid about the support that we're offering our franchisees, and that we don't grow too fast, because I definitely don't want to fall in that trap. But obviously get Massage Lux out there into as many communities as possible.
And your plan to do that, is it predominantly through multi-unit operators, or what's your franchise development strategy currently?
Yeah, so we are, historically it has been more like onesie twosies, and then they end up opening additional ones. And I love those stories, because it is folks that have never owned a business before, they open their first and then they're opening additional. And right now 40% of our development is coming from existing franchisees, and I love seeing that. So
that's great.
My number one goal is get our existing franchisees to open up more locations. We will always welcome onesie twosies into our brand, because I love those folks and I love those stories, but also believe that we have the foundation in place to help Mumbos diversify from the QSR space or other businesses that they own into the health and wellness industry with a reoccurring reoccurring revenue membership model, and some recession resiliency. So we're going to be working with a few more of those folks too, which we're excited about. We actually just had in the last couple of years a Checkers franchisee turn a Checkers restaurant into a Massage Lux, block off the drive-through and turn it into a Massage Lux, and it's a great location.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And just for the listeners, Mumbo is multi-unit, multi-brand operators. For those who don't know franchising.
Yeah.
It's funny, we have our own language in the franchise industry. Oh, how many Z's do you have? And people are like, what the hell is a Z?
What's your snow pipeline?
Yeah, what's your snow pipeline? It's like, what are you talking about? Are you what kind of snow are you talking about? Yeah, so multi-unit, multi-brand operators. We are actually seeing this as well so we're a predominantly commercial power washing business. We're 60-70% of our business is larger jobs that are recurring or reoccurring in nature, often contracted for multiple years. And we've signed up a few Mumbo franchisees as well, and they just have the outlook necessary for long-term growth. Like
Yeah.
we always tell the franchisee in the process, like if you want a 1 to 2 truck business, like this just isn't the opportunity for you. It's going to cost you too much money. You're not going to make enough back that you want to make. Like it's just not worth it. Don't buy this business. But if you want to build like a 5 truck plus empire, 10 truck empire, is the right thing for you. Now, obviously, that takes more capital. It takes more risk tolerance. If you're going to do like we did the top of the Superdome before the Super Bowl. You said you like sports.
Yep.
That's like our kind of claim to fame recently. And so like that's a big job that takes a lot of time to complete. So we're going to go for the first time this year to the multi-unit franchise conference.
Yay, I'll see you there.
Yeah. And we're actually going to go. I'm going to send my national accounts, someone from my national accounts team, and I'm going to send someone from my FranDev team because we can service all of those locations. Like we can literally clean all of them. Yeah. So we're like, oh, great. Like we'll go do that. So it should be a pretty good conference for us.
Yeah, you're going to love it. It's great. It's one of my favorite shows. And are you going to go?
I'm not going to go. But my VP of franchise development and my director of national accounts are going to go.
All right,
I looked at
my eye out.
Yeah, definitely go up and say hi. You'll see the blue shirts, the Rolling Suds gear.
I know what you guys look like.
Yeah. We stand out, but I was just looking at my conference schedule next year, and I'm like, I gotta start being like real intentional with where I'm going. Because if you're not careful, like you could literally be gone all the time. There's a franchise show, I feel like every 4 days or something like that.
It's so true. Yeah, it is. And then I always get like FOMO, right? Because if I not go to an event and then I see it all over the new Facebook, which is LinkedIn.
Just LinkedIn, yeah, LinkedIn, Facebook,
and I'm like,
yeah.
Oh no, does everybody like wonder where I am?
Yeah. Meanwhile, no one's thinking about us. No one's thinking about us at all.
No,
yeah, not at all.
Not like we have businesses to run or anything.
No, I just want to go hang out with my friends at a franchise show. Why can't I just go do that? Yeah, Matt Haller was like, if we just stopped talking to we like to talk to each other so much. We just stop talking to each other as much and start talking to the rest of the world about franchising. We'd be great. It was so funny. He said that.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. And then he goes, Aaron, you've done a good job of that.
Yeah.
You know, with the content and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So you've got with so your FranDev, what's your strategy? So you're targeting those larger operators. Are you doing broker events? Like I don't see you at any of the broker events.
No, we're not using.
Is there a reason?
Yeah, we're a tough model when it comes to brokers. I mean, we're brick and mortar. We're 2,500 square feet. We're $700,000 investment. Like people are going to sell rolling studs all day over Massage Lux, and it's because they're going to get paid the same amount, and they're not going to have the same quest ahead of them. So while we've tried brokers in the past, most brick and mortars like us will not be so much in that space. So we're going to get back in. We're going to be at a couple of trade shows this year. We're doing a fair amount of print buys. We're doing a fair amount of hunting. We do a lot on Meta and Google still. A couple of portals here and there. And a lot of referrals too. I mean, a lot of our franchisees are members of our current spas. And so once you hit a certain scale, you can benefit from marketing to those folks. And it's why we're so clustered. I mean, we're in 22 states, but usually we'll open one in a random state, and then a couple of years later we've got 3, 4, 5, 7 opening up there because the members start to get awareness and the brands
get awareness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say that because the broker circuit alone is a crazy amount of conferences.
I know. Yep, absolutely.
I go there and I see the same FranDev reps and the same FSOs, all at the same it's like, oh, I'm headed from FranServe to FranChoice. I'll see you in 2 days. But I do think maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that there are more brick and mortar location like models stepping into the broker communities. It's just really hard to break into them. I mean, I'm fortunate that we've got these existing relationships with FranServe that I had before I launched Rolling Suds, but I don't know how a brand that doesn't have those relationships with the brokers breaks in. Like I literally, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. And here's the thing, like, it takes a lot of time and a lot of investment in
Hmm.
order to forge those relationships.
Yeah.
And with a franchise fee of 42.5, I mean, you're giving up essentially that full franchise fee to the broker and then have, very little left over in order to fund the support to help that franchisee get open. And so
Yeah.
we're not opposed to it. I'm not surprised more brick and mortars are jumping in. I'm going to keep an eye on it, but won't be the first in the pool. And the reason more franchisors are jumping in is because it's getting so difficult on digital to stand out, and impression share is so tight on Meta, and spam leads are coming through, and it's getting harder, right? Like, there's a stat out there. God, I wish I could remember. It's like 16,000 franchise opportunities, or 16,000 people buy a franchise every year, and there's only 4,000 brands. And it's like, what? Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So there's way more brands than there are franchisees, and it's getting harder to stand out.
Yeah. We joined Franchise Sidekick
Yeah.
this year, and we've done a handful of deals with them, and they just released like a franchise report of they have a database of 73,000 people, and only 454 of those 73,000 bought a franchise
Isn't that crazy?
from them. And they might have brought them somewhere else, but
Right.
so what are you seeing from a cost to acquire franchisee perspective on what you guys are spending?
Yeah, so for us, we're pretty much in line with what Franchise Update produced, at least this last,
2025.
yeah, 2025 report. So, I mean, we hover between 12 and 14 for total acquisition cost.
That's great.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
And most of them are buying one, and then they have a development agreement later to buy the second or the third.
Yeah, so either one or three are typically what we sell. We kind of do a buy two, get one free, and I would put it at 60% buy one and then 40% buy three right off the bat.
Okay, got it. So they're paying you for all of it off the bat.
Hmm.
Yep,
Yep.
got it.
Yep.
Yeah, so if they're buying 3 packs, it might make sense for you guys, or 3 unit deals. We do a minimum of 2 units. Our average deal size is about 3 as well.
Hmm.
So the acquisition costs, it ends up making sense, but it is, that's just in the cost to like pay for the deal. It doesn't cost, the other stuff of going to the events and the time it takes and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah,
So
and the upfront fees, and yep, yep. It's, I mean, it is, yeah. It's an
yeah,
investment.
we're part of 5 networks,
Yeah,
so we're not in like all 12.
right.
I have friends that are,
Yeah.
and I feel like they're never home.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it.
Right.
I feel like I'm never home, and
Right.
I only am in 5.
But that's a lot. I
So,
mean, if you think about it, that's 5. That's like every other month you have a broker event plus all the other events you go to.
and they have regionals and stuff like that
Yeah.
as well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
that
mean, that's a
you
lot.
are encouraged to participate in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I looked at my conference schedule next year, and I'm like, well, we've got a team. Our team is 25
Hmm.
people.
Hmm.
And the team can go kind of do some of these other ones, and I'll go to the ones where I can attribute a direct ROI.
Yeah.
Also, like, I'm training for an Ironman right now,
Oh my gosh, look
and
at you. It's like, because you don't have enough going on. See, you operate in chaos too. The high achiever thing.
I need to. I just like I stepped into a chairman role, and I'm like, if I don't find something to do on a regular basis, like, I'm gonna go start another company, and I don't want to do that right now.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm gone for 4 days, like, training's messed up, eating's messed up, like, I'm not doing, like, not only am I away from my family, but like all these other things that are messed up. So anyways, I'm just being super careful and choosy with my time. So okay. And then I want to know kind of like what are your plans for how many you want to add more franchisees, you want to have them grow, you want to help them grow and open more stores. Any things you want to change to the model, international expansion, like any things that you can drop with us here
Yeah.
that you might want to, like, that you see as the future of Massage Lux?
Yeah, so Well, I'm not itching to go international anytime soon. Right partner, right situation, perhaps, right? What I really want to do over the next couple of years is continue to grow this brand, but responsibly, not to throw the responsible franchising thing out, but my own kind of responsibly, which is feeling confident in what we're selling, partnering with the right people, keeping the partnerships with the people we've already partnered with strong, and I mean, most importantly, continuing to love what I do and work with a team that I love. I think like once that goes away, then everything else that is good doesn't follow any longer. And so it's finding the things that excite me and focusing more on those, and either delegating the things that don't or getting rid of them altogether. And so we've got some really exciting stuff happening in the body space because we're massage and we're facials, but a few more body treatments, some cool innovation in the technology space that we're rolling into some of our spas, and just some exciting events with our franchisees. So fun things on the horizon.
What is the body? Explain that to me. So what would be considered a body service?
Well, I can't tell you exactly
Oh, okay.
yet,
Got it. Okay.
but you can follow me on LinkedIn and or Massage Lux on any of our social channels, and we'll have some really exciting body services coming at you soon.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was going to answer my last question, which is where can people find you? So LinkedIn, it sounds like, and massagelux.com.
Yes. Yep. Find me on LinkedIn, Kristen Pechacek, Pechacek.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the Scaling Podcast, Kristen. It was great catching up with you.
Aaron, this was awesome. I can't wait to meet you in person.
Same.